Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Mark Rodin, and today we are doing the top 15, count them, 15, that's right, underrated JDM cars that should have been rear-wheel drive. So that means that all these cars are either front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive, but they should have been rear-wheel drive because rear-wheel drive is just superior, let's face it. All these cars are also cars that you guys probably never heard of, or if you have heard of them, at least you don't really talk about them as much as you should. If you guys want to support the channel any more than you already are, head on over to www.smoothstance.com/shop to pick yourself up a hat, shirt, or shorts. And with all that out of the way, let's get right to the video. Alright, so coming in at the number 15 spot, dead last, is going to be the Mitsubishi Galant, VR4 to be specific. And the only reason I'm putting it this low is because I know the reason why that it's not rear-wheel drive, but it still hurts me to see it at all-wheel drive, or even front-wheel drive if you got the base model. The VR4, though, comes with a 2.5-liter twin turbocharged V6, making a ridiculously large 280 horsepower. But guess what? It went to all four wheels, bro. And now, yes, this is a rally car, so it did need to be all-wheel drive, blah, blah, blah. But if you mean to tell me that this thing isn't sick as all hell rear-wheel drive, you're wrong. You are just incorrect, buddy. Next up at numero 14 is the Subaru Legacy, or the GT version, specifically the GT version. Let's just talk about the GT version. Let's make it easy on ourselves, which is quite literally exactly like the Galant in terms of why it's not rear-wheel drive. It was a rally legend, and in rally, you kind of need to be all-wheel drive to do good. But either way, the Legacy GT comes with a 2.4-liter turbocharged flat 4, making a little less than the Galant at only 260 horsepower, but that's still incredible. It was all-wheel drive, of course, and the saddest part about this one is it is just as good, if not better, than the WRX, but nobody talks about the Legacy GT because the WRX is just so much more popular when it needs the love, and it should have been rear-wheel drive. Number 13 is going to be a front-wheel drive car this time. It is the Nissan Sentra SER Spec V, my good friend. Both generations of this car were amazing little tuner monsters. And yeah, some people like them, but not enough at all, in my opinion, all right? There's a good little following for them, but everybody should be following them. They come with a very nice 2.5-liter turbocharged inline-4, making 200 horsepower exactly, but it went to the front wheels, of course. And no matter which generation you go with, they can look very good, in my opinion. Like, yeah, they won't turn all the heads out there, but if you mod it nicely, it will be a pretty damn good car that all car guys can enjoy. And imagine, though, if you could do that, but now it was rear-wheel drive, and you can drift it. That's just cooler. Number 12 is going to the first Honda of this list, the car that I talk about all the time, the car that actually a lot of you guys know me for because it's my most viewed video ever, the Honda Prelude. The Prelude is like Honda's major sports car besides, of course, the NSX or S2000, and everybody just talks about the Integra instead. It makes no sense. These cars came with a 2.2-liter inline-4, making 197 horsepower, and they were front-wheel drive because, duh, it's a Honda. And if you know anything about Hondas, you know that they're all front-wheel drive and that horsepower number can change very easily. They also look absolutely incredible too, and people are for sure coming around to it nowadays, but it still needs so much more love. And I think if the car was rear-wheel drive, imagine where it would have been. Like, look at all the rear-wheel drive Hondas, the S2000 and the NSX. They're legends. Number 11, my good sir, is going to the MazdaSpeed Protege, or really any Protege for that matter. I used to love this car with all my heart because my neighbor had an orange one, and even I have kind of forgot about them. Makes no sense, but my neighbor's orange, dude, that little thing was sick. I wonder where it went, but oh man, I used to love it when I was younger. But either way, though, these cars come with a 2-liter inline-4, making 170 horsepower, and that power went to the front wheels very, very, very sadly. But really quick, I do just want to say that these cars are so small in person. They are like miniature, bro. It's kind of weird, but that kind of makes it good for like canyon carving and toge racing if you're into that stuff. But either way, though, look at all the Mazdas that are rear-wheel drive. They're legends. Number 10 is going to the great, the Toyota Levin AE111, my bad, I almost said 11, there's 3 ones. Yes, that's right, buddy, there's more 11s than just the AE86, but these ones weren't rear-wheel drive, so they weren't as cool for sure, but either way, they came with a 1.6-liter inline-4, making 163 horsepower, going to, of course, the front wheels, which, by the way, that's a pretty decent number of power out of a 1.6-liter, but as we all know, the AE86 is one of the most popular JDM cars of all time, and that's because it was rear-wheel drive. So if this car would have been rear-wheel drive, it would have been just as good, if not better, than the A86, but it was freaking front-wheel drive, and now nobody even knows about it. Just barely sneaking its little weird windows into the number 9 spot is going to be the Subaru SVX, which I made a whole deep dive video on, and you guys seem to actually kind of eat it up, so that's very good. Thank you for that. But the SVX came with a pretty weird motor. It was a 3.3 liter flat 6, making a very decent 230 horsepower, but it was going to all 4 wheels. There was also even some front wheel drive variants, but never once was there a damn rear wheel drive model, which makes no sense, Subaru. You knew this car wouldn't be a rally car, so why didn't you try your luck with it being rear wheel drive? When you tried your luck with the BRZ, look at that car. It did great. If you had just been like, oh, you know what? We know it's not going to be a rally car. It doesn't need to be all-wheel drive. Let's make this rear-wheel drive. I feel like this would be on everybody's radar right now if that was the case, but tell me if I'm wrong. Number 8, though, is going to another cute little Mazda, and it was even called the MX, just like the Miata. But you probably never heard of it, and it is the MX-3, which is quite literally a Miata that looks a little bit different and is not a convertible. That's the only difference. They came with a 1.8 liter V6 making 130 horsepower, and they were front wheel drive, but incredibly lightweight, so that power is utilized well in the corners. Also, I said it last time we talked about the MX-3, but a 1.8 liter V6 is such a weird engine number. I don't know what they were thinking there, but either way, this car is an autocross monster, but it just gets no love whatsoever simply because the Miata was rear wheel drive and this wasn't. Number 7 is going to the next Mitsubishi with the wonderful Mitsubishi FTO, my good friend. FTO stands for Thartan Ostrich. I don't know. The car that we all know from Gran Turismo, but we forgot about because it looked weird as hell and we didn't get it in America, sadly. That car. They came with a wonderful 2-liter V6 making 197 horsepower, and it was front-wheel drive once again. That is a very small displacement number for a V6. What is going on here? The last car had a 1.8-liter V6. This car has a 2-liter V6. What are you doing in Japan? These things do look weird, I will say, but over time it really starts to grow on you. And I know for a damn fact if they were rear-wheel drive, we would be seeing them imported every single day like it's a damn Toyota Chaser, but nobody even knows about them because they're front-wheel drive. Number 6 is going to the last Toyota for this list with the wonderful Celica GT, my good friend. These actually used to be rear-wheel drive, but then were switched to all-wheel drive, and then were switched to front-wheel drive. It is a crazy story, actually, but the 7th gen is the one that we're going to be talking about specifically in today, because that's the one that's the biggest disappointment. It came with a 1.8 liter inline 4, making a very small 140 horsepower going to the front wheels. And they do look very sporty for sure, but the fact that they are front wheel drive with that little amount of horsepower is actually just like depressing in a way. These things used to be awesome. The first couple generations are rear wheel drive little drift rockets, and then the middle couple generations were absolutely amazing rally legends that were all wheel drive and destroyed the competition. And then the 7th gen came out and it just did nothing. Number 5, though, is going to the freaking Nissan Maxima, literally any generation, and these things would have been awesome. Also, shout out to the guy that literally always comments, dude, do the Maxima. Here you go, it's in a video. Like, these cars, though, they just fit the criteria for literally any of the JDM legends out there, but since they were front-wheel drive, nobody cares. They obviously all come with different engines and horsepower depending on what generation that you get, but every one of them was front wheel drive only, which makes no sense to me. Like, sure, it's better gas mileage and probably more reliable, but if you at least gave people the rear wheel drive option for these cars, people would be talking about you guys a lot more than they do now. Look at cars that aren't even like super special, like the Volvo 240. That wasn't anything super fast or super quick from the factory, but just because it was rear wheel drive, people love that car. You could do that with economy cars and people are going to like them, even if they're, as long as they're rear wheel drive. Number 4, though, is yet another Mitsubishi. There's a lot of Mitsubishis on this list, and it is the Mitsubishi Eclipse line of cars every single generation. Once again, any generation except for kind of the 2G, though, because the 2G, those are pretty loved, which they deserve for sure. They are amazing cars. But either way, all the other generations, they come with different engine options, and over the years, they actually did get better. People always think the Eclipse got slower after the 2nd generation, but the 3rd generation and 4th generation both have significantly more power. The only problem is that they were front-wheel drive only and had very mediocre engines, while the 2G had the wonderful 4G63 from the Evos of the time, so nobody talks about them. But now just imagine if that 3rd gen Eclipse or 4th gen Eclipse was rear-wheel drive with those same engines, because the 4th gen Eclipse made 260 horsepower, man. That's pretty good in the early 2000s, but nobody cares because it was front-wheel drive and boring looking. 3rd place is going for this list, my bad, is going to the Mazda MX-6. And I only put this one here because I think they look very, very cool, to be honest with you, but the engine is just not the best I have heard, so don't like take my word for it. It's not like underrated in the terms of its potential. I just think it's underrated because I think it looks cool. They came with a 2.5 liter V6 making 165 horsepower, and it was sadly front wheel drive. And this is what blows me away. Like, riddle me this, Batman. They name it MX just like the Miata, which is rear wheel drive and very popular. Then they make it look even more sporty and low slung. But they decide it should be front-wheel drive. Why? It was obviously a sports car, so it should have had the sports car design on it, Mazda. Second place, though, is going to the actual just better Miata that gets no love because it's front-wheel drive. It is the Honda Del Sol. I get it. I really do. Honda likes making cars that are good on gas, reliable, and fun to drive, and so they make them front-wheel drive. But just imagine if we had pretty much 2 different Miatas from 2 different brands. That would have been amazing. This car came with a 1.6 liter inline-4, making only 106 horsepower going to the front wheels. And the sad part about it is the engine that's in this car is much, much better than the engine that's in the Miata. It literally would have taken over the world if this car was rear-wheel drive, bro. Honda motors in general are just significantly better like Japanese motors. You can usually make a lot of power out of Honda motors. The Del Sol is no exception. Now, the Miata, it's an amazing car, don't get me wrong, but the motor isn't notorious for being able to build power. The Miata is good for an engine swap. Imagine if the Del Sol was rear-wheel drive. Just imagine it, friend. Honorable mention time for today, and it is the Nissan Altima Coupe. Yes, that's right, buddy. There's even a 16th car because there's so many underrated JDM cars, and they're all front-wheel drive. The Coupe only because that one looks very good and came with the damn 350Z motor, pal. That's a 3.5-liter V6, making 306 horsepower. But it went to the front wheels, bro. Like the sedan owners, I don't understand. Let the sedan owners keep the front-wheel drive cars, and if you're gonna make a coupe and give it a 350Z or G35 motor, make it rear-wheel drive, Nissan. What were you thinking? First place, though, is going to the sexy-ass Mitsubishi 3000 GT. Of course, you knew it was coming. This car is slowly becoming not underrated anymore, to be honest. People are starting to talk about it a lot more, but it's just amazing in every single way, except for the tires that decide to, like, move when you press the gas pedal down, if you know what I'm saying. The VR4 model of this comes with a 3-liter twin turbocharged V6, making a ridiculously large 320 horsepower going to all 4 wheels. And the base model, which is much more cheap, comes with the same motor without the turbos and still makes 170 horsepower, but instead was now front wheel drive. And with the amount of technology in this car, it makes it deserve the love every day. Like just the technology alone makes it deserve the love, but everything else about it is great too. It has a highly tunable engine, beautiful looks, pretty damn cheap price tag even in 2022, and now just imagine all that stuff but with the power going to the rear wheels. But ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of today's video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more. I really quickly just want to say 2 things. One, in the top of the description is going to be a link to a gaming channel. I'm going to start uploading racing video games, specifically car X drift racing. I really like that game. I have a lot of time. I have a lot of fun playing it. And so I'm just going to do top 10s on that game, top 10 cars you need to buy, top 10 cars you should drift, top 10 cars you should drive in naked. I don't know, but we're going to do top 10 like car X drift racing things over there too. We'll do a couple other stuff over there too, but just go check it out if you're into like racing video games and stuff like that. And number 2, if your car's on this list and you're like, well, it should have been front wheel drive because of this reason, dude, it was just for fun, you know what I'm saying? I understand that not every car literally needs to be all rear-wheel drive. There needs to be some front-wheel drive cars. I'm just saying that some of these cars would have been really cool if they were rear-wheel drive. But anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, Das Vidania, and have a nice night.